use on rely on this for my presentation. But okay, as many are aware, Japan's foreign language education has long been revolving around English. Of course, it's a lingua franca, lingua franca contributing to bridging borders, especially academic and business fields, as you know. And as such, most Japanese secondary schools put their instructional priority on English, but with less or no other, language study options in their foreign language education curriculum. Despite this language focus, though, the nation's English language education appears to have been struggling, and also there's been a prolonged disagreement between language pedagogy experts and the government and private sectors also. So I would like to talk about this reliance on English and the effects to to inform the status quo and corresponding issues, and then we'll identify the actual language needs to show you the gaps or mismatches between those needs and the nation's foreign language education policy, and then move on to discuss how we could fill those gaps and mismatches and conclude with future directions. And so that's outline I just mentioned. So let me start with reliance on English to examine what I mean by reliance on English in foreign language education and its effects in terms of foreign language enrollment and language choice of test takers in the center exam and language exposure to other languages, and along with the other two listed here. This table shows the nation foreign language enrollments in the upper secondary education. According to MEX, there are close to 5,000 high schools, and the enrollment of 3.3 million. And English was taught at perhaps all these schools. I didn't count them. I didn't double check those, obviously. On the other hand, other languages were taught at 700 high schools, or 14%, and the enrollments were tenths of that percentage, and the 80,000%, or 1.4%, perhaps mostly offered outside the mainstream. Although a total of 18 foreign languages, including Latin and Esperanto, were offered across these schools, I can say that the opportunity for the students to learn those other languages is very quite limited. And judging from these data, so in other words, most domestic students I'm afraid, miss out on the opportunity to study other important languages like Korean formally, even if they wish to. So this language study focus also affects the test takers' choice of foreign language in the university center exam, which, by the way, as you know, is given annually and has been used by many Japanese colleges and universities as part of their screening process for admission. Actually, the exam is targeted for two groups, arts-bound students and science-bound students, and they all have to take foreign language tests from among 5 languages. And so as you can see, so there's a 6-digit participation for English, and 3-digit participation for the other 4 languages, and so there's quite big contrast there, I can see. And by the way, exams started in 1990, and then later on, Chinese and then Korean were added. And also another point is because of such dominance and popularity of English, students have little choice but to wait till they enter universities to study other languages. As social guide will go first to learn the language, and understandably it is extremely challenging for them to attain advanced proficiency level of their target language by the time they graduate, say, for future use. And in fact, here even some language majors still have difficulty comprehending academic lectures even after having participated in a full semester study abroad for language training in the target culture. And just to give you an image of what I mean by attaining certain level of proficiency, I would like us to look at, for that purpose, I would like us to look at the survey by Modern Language Association on foreign language enrollments of US graduates in the fall of 2013. To me, I can see a balanced lineup of foreign language courses, including both Indo-European and East Asian languages were offered to enroll students at all levels. Japanese came in the 5th place, including American Sign Language, which came in the second. Actually, so Japanese actually came in the 6th, and the ratio of introductory to advanced for the Japanese language was 5:1, comparable to that of European languages and Chinese, which I thought was not too bad in the foreign turf. And I wonder if Japanese colleges and universities offer and successfully enroll their students in foreign language courses even at the advanced level with such diversity. And in the case of college students in Japan, their late exposure to other languages inevitably limit their study abroad destination to revolving around English-speaking countries, even if they wish to study elsewhere. Unless having attained a certain level of proficiency before their departure, they have little choice but to resort their study to study abroad, participation to non-credit bearing language study in non-Anglophone countries where they probably usually work with other international students instead of engaging academic study with a local student in the target language. And study abroad destination is here of domestic students. As you can see in the table, over 50% chose English-speaking countries as their study abroad destinations, whereas 10% Chinese, 6% Korean speaking countries. Furthermore, it is often the case that even some students going to English-speaking countries choose to spend their first semester overseas of language study before fully taking regular courses in the following semester because of the lack of confidence, and experience in using the language. At my university, for example, we have such program options as bridging programs with our partner institutions for less confident students, even if they have proficient enough language levels. And unwillingness there's also another factor, which is unwillingness to work overseas among young people. I should say, in fact, in the private sector in Japan, there seems to be a growing unwillingness to work overseas among young employees. According to an online survey conducted by Sano Institute of Management, targeted for over 800 new employees aged 18 to 26, the number of young people unwilling to work overseas has increased and reached all-time high at 63%, as you can see, from 24% in 2004. So, among the primary reasons for this unwillingness among young employees are lack of confidence in their second language skills and also security concerns about daily living overseas, though they realized the need of their employers to have them act globally at home and abroad. There was also a mismatch between preferred countries to be assigned and actual needs of the company. According to the survey, Europe, North America far exceeded other regions as their preferred destination to be assigned, though actual company needs are more increasing toward more toward the Asia market. So let's go turn to actual language needs to see there's a mismatch or gap. So far we have been seeing the effects that current foreign language education has or may have had on the status quo. I will not turn to this and focusing on these non-Japanese residents and demographic picture of non-Japanese residents and foreign visitors to Japan and needs of the private and other sectors. And let's start with total demographic feature in Japan. Out of the total population of 2.3 million, as you can see, were non-Japanese residents as of 2016. Although the number may be small, but the institutions and first language vary. This is a table, compiled by the first language of the non-Japanese residents, and the vary. So first language vary. So there's this variety, as you can see in this table, led by those. Led by 750,000 Chinese, I can see, followed by 500,000 each for Korean and English Anglophone residents, followed by Vietnamese, 200,000 Vietnamese and Portuguese residents, and Nepalese Spanish. That's the picture. And they live mostly in major cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya, or small cities like in Gunma and Shizuoka prefectures, where they have developed their own communities, such as Portuguese and Korean communities. This demographic picture, they may provide an idea as to what language could or maybe should be learned in school, in a sense that the proficiency in those languages would help the speakers with their resettlement in Japan and adjustment to the local language and culture. In fact, individuals proficient in both those languages, both other languages and the Japanese language, are in high demand in various sectors, such as the medical, legal, and several other fields. Like in my prefecture, where 10% of the non-Japanese residents live in, and they hire individuals proficient in 5 different languages: Chinese, Portuguese, Spanish, English, and one other. And they plan to add 5 other languages to help with the non-Japanese residents who need help. So that's the reality, I guess. So let's move on to foreign visitors to Japan. And as you can see, there were also 10 times as many visitors to Japan, and as the non-Japanese residents. Their number jumped actually from 6 million in 2011, the year of the Great Eastern Earthquake, all the way up to 24 million, as you can see here in 2016, which were all-time high. I don't know why the number all of a sudden jumped in 4 or 5 years all of a sudden. There's a strong need for individuals. So there's a strong need naturally for individuals who can help with their visitors stay as their professional tour guides in their languages. With this rapid increase, there has been mismatch in this area, according to an Asahi Shimbun article just released on May 29th this year. Although there are about 20,000 licensed bilingual guides, domestic bilingual guides, available in 10 languages, 70% specialize in English, whereas over 80% of the visitors to Japan, as you can see, are from non-Anglophone nations, like those from East Asia and Southeastern Asian countries. So increasing need, there's also another thing is there's also an increasing need for various sectors and local communities to interact with their non-Japanese counterparts in recent years. With the shrinking domestic market and declining population, more and more private companies are needing to interact with their foreign counterparts to market their products and services across borders, especially in Asia. And an increasing number of major Japanese corporations even send their employees, according to one of the recent articles, send their employees for an extended period of time overseas for language study overseas, so that the employees can eventually prepare themselves to deal with the locals in the target markets overseas. Despite the demand, though, there has been significant shortage of such individual linguistic, not limited to English, as well as intercultural communication skills. In the higher education sector, a lack of opportunity, as you know probably, for domestic and international students to interact with each other on campus remains an issue, perhaps because there are differing and even conflicting interests and needs among the students. So this is the international student enrollment. So the countries of origin of incoming international students is somewhat consistent with those of foreign residents in Japan that we just saw. That is China, Vietnam, Nepal, and South Korea make up 78%. Because of such demographic features, there is a potential difference in language and culture of their interests between domestic students who is somewhat proficient in English and incoming their international counterparts whose first language is not English. So in that regard, we may need to have significantly more diverse body of domestic and international students in terms of their language and cultural experience and varied academic and other interests in order to increase the chances for both students to interact with each other spontaneously and naturally for the benefit of their learning. So we could have more domestic students with proficiency in other languages, and also international students whose first language is English. So that will probably may fill the gap in those areas. Okay, so speaking of filling the gap, I'm focused on two things: diversifying the nation's language education, further strengthening English education. Start with diversifying the nation's language education. Excuse me. I think that the very first language that we encounter as students exposed to, whether it be English or other languages, and their positive learning experience that follow would lead them to continue working on that language on their own, following the initial exposure. Broadening language study options would keep students motivated to further explore their language aptitude to its fullest potential according to their interests and needs, as well as those of their local communities. Among other languages I recommend they offer are Chinese, Korean, Nepalese, Russian, which are all neighboring, languages of our neighbors. And also Portuguese, Spanish, Vietnamese, the languages of immigrants. And so, immigrants. So if some motivated students have become interested and gained skills in these languages at the secondary level, they would be ready to pursue their more advanced language study at the tertiary level with study abroad and their other options, and utilize such experience in future careers along the way. So let's go to the next point, further strengthening that nation's English education. The other way to fill those gaps is to strengthen the current English education. To do so, first of all, I think there's a need for reviewing or reconsidering the current approaches to teaching led by Max, since the revision of the curriculum guideline by Max in 1989, which with its introduction focused from reading comprehension to oral communication. The nation's English language education focus has been on its practical use. Nevertheless, the nation's English language education has been, it has been pointed out that by language pedagogy experts that this shift may not have been working for the better, as it has had a learning conflict on the part of learners and teachers. It is also reported that 80% of the Japanese have basic literacy in English already because of the traditional approaches they are more comfortable with, a fact which has tended to be overlooked. There was an accountment there anyway, so the question is the current introduction of focus on practical use realistic enough? So as I mentioned earlier, there are disagreements, prolonged disagreements between language experts and private and government sectors over pedagogy. And placing students based on their proficiency and previous knowledge and learning experiences will be needed to attain desired learning outcomes in English education. Of course, if such level-based placement is arranged, high school educators should be able to accommodate students according to their varying and changing learning needs for their benefit. So let's conclude with future directions. I pick up 4 movements for meaningful language education, government goals, student mobility, and program development. And I don't know if this organization is JAP4, Japan Council on the Teaching of Foreign Language, was established in 2012. Since soon after it was launched, I've been a kind of member, and they've been advocating to support multilingualism, plurilingualism in Japan. JAP4 has been promoting its cause to diversify the current foreign language education and negotiating with MEXT to improve the status quo. Although MEXT's English dominating stance in foreign language education has been long-standing, and hurdle to make it diverse for the benefit of learners is still high, there's a sign of slowly going in the appropriate favorable direction. In response to JAP4's initiative, MEXT has redirected its current English education stance by renaming one of its related funded project in a more inclusive way, not limited to English. So concerned about MEXT's continued focus on English for practical purposes in the foreign language policy, Science Council of Japan, or Nihon Gakujutsu Kaigi, its Language and Literature Committee released its recommendation in 2016 for the development of English language education in primary and secondary education. It stresses the importance of fostering learners' positive attitude towards language not limited to English, and there are also an increasing number of high schools and universities that include or plan to include other languages in their curriculum. A high school in the Kanto area, for example, is planning to offer other languages such as Spanish, and another offer Vietnamese as their first foreign language for their students to study formally. Also, government goals, you might have heard by now in other sessions, doubling student mobility by 2020 is still on, and 120,000 for outgoing and 300,000 for incoming. International baccalaureate designated high schools in larger numbers by 2020 from the initial 40 to 200. Probably help somehow diversify, internationalize the curriculum overall. I don't know if these are attainable at this point with a few years remaining. I don't know. So student mobility looks rising again. After it hit the 2000, hit its peak in 2004 over 80,000, and now the non-degree study participation is rising actually. So eventually, study overall participation may rise to help diversify the foreign language education and internationalize the curriculum. And program development, internationalize the university curricula. And I think incorporating content-driven instruction into the traditional language-driven instruction at the tertiary level could enhance learning outcomes and meet the needs of motivated students. To this end, the content and the language integrated learning, or CLIL, is being recognized quickly in Japan for the past few years. Together with CLIO, English Medium Instruction, or EMI, may also serve a central role in such development. EMI especially plays a meaningful role in providing motivated domestic students with the opportunity to obtain disciplinary content knowledge across languages. It is also significant in preparing them to also significant in preparing them to pursue international careers at home and abroad, such as education potential EMI or other language medium instruction for that matter, can feel a long overdue need for individuals in the private sector who can work comfortably and professionally with people from other cultures across borders to breach borders. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Akira. One thing I've done today is that my kids start Chinese lessons tomorrow. We have maybe time for one quick question. Does anybody have a quick question?
How competent are teachers teaching languages foreign languages such as Chinese, Vietnamese, and other languages? Also with English?
Actually, for other languages, I don't have data available, but I can check. But they should be confident enough to teach those other languages. And also English is still the next set the kind of a qualification and the level of English that they will need to be able to teach.
Mm-hmm.
But probably few teachers have that level at this point that from what I hear. I don't know what level is right. Is it right level?
It's still a very interesting question. Competency in teaching is obviously an issue.
Yeah.
Once again, I think we're out of time for Akira, but once again, big round of applause. And our second speaker today is going to be Iran Han.